Hi there, my name is Anne and this is my second video drawing BT21 characters. I will be drawing Mang, RJ, Shooky and Tata. Here I'm starting off with Mang. I started by drawing the neck and a horizontal line connecting it so that I can get a better feel for the proportions of his head. I messed around a little bit with their snout until I got it right. You can look at it like it's a U shape, and the top of his head I drew it flat first, but as you can see they curve a little bit, and if you take the vertical line of his neck and the top head you can connect them if you would extend those lines where their ears meet. For their nose you just draw half a heart and a short line in the middle. Their eye is right in the middle of his face. I found it easier if I started in the middle and worked my way out. My circles aren't perfect, so oh well. For their manes I found it easier to draw little dots to connect each bow so that I could space them out correctly. For me, the face was the hardest part. The body is kind of simple if you look at the reference picture and just try to copy it like that. You can't really mess that up that much, and it doesn't really matter because most people will look at the face rather than the body. I left their ponytail thingy to the last bit so that I could draw the proportions correctly because I wanted to space it out like it was on my reference picture. And then for the outlining, I outlined it with a black marker and tried to erase it, and I got streaks. I freaked out for a little while and I thought, oh no, I ruined it, I need to start again, but I realized rather quickly, hey, I have opaque white paint, I will fix this later on. I colored Mang in with colored pencils. It's okay if your colors don't match exactly. I found that the color palette of BT21 are very difficult to recreate with just colored pencils or marker. Like, they're not in any basic sets. They're very specific colors. But it's okay. You can see that my body, for example, is a little bit too dark for the original. After I fixed it with white paint, I felt so relieved because my mistake had disappeared, and now I have Mang. So here you have him. It was fun to draw. So let's move on to RJ. I start off with the bottom of his head. I found that easier because then for each little like cloud of wool that he has, I could space them out correctly because I had the bottom part and I could just meet up in the middle at the top. So for me that was easier to do. It's just a matter of spacing them out correctly, and you will find that you just need to try a little bit and eventually you will get something that looks like RJ. He has like a very teddy bear-esque face, like the little snout is typical teddy bear and his eyes aren't really that complicated. For his body, I first drew the scarf so that I could get like a feeling of where his arms were supposed to be, and then I drew the little line which connects his legs, and from there on out I slowly worked on the right proportions of each and every single cloud. I don't know what's like balls of fur. I don't know how they're called in sheep in English. I'm sorry. And you just have to keep on working and eventually you will get something. Mine aren't perfect either. If you look eventually at my arms and if you compare it to the reference picture, they don't match. But it's okay because if you look at it separately from a reference picture, it looks just fine. Again, I outlined it with a black marker, but I waited until I knew the ink was dry before I tried to erase it. He's very easy to color in actually. He has just 3 colors: brown, red and pink. Red for his scarf, brown for his shoes and feet. Actually, not shoes, feet. And pink for his little cheekies. You could also shade a little bit with black and gray, but because I didn't do it with Mang, I decided to also not do it with RJ and just try to keep it consistent. And here is my finished RJ. Now for Shooky. Oh my god, he looks the easiest, but for me is the most difficult because His head kind of looks like a dumpling. I've said this a lot in my previous video. But it's also not a dumpling, and it's also an annoying shape because they always draw him like a little bit tilted onto one side. So I wanted him flat because I thought that it was easier. But then for the legs, it didn't work because if you look at the reference picture, which is slanted, his one leg is longer than the other, but you can't do that if it's flat because that just doesn't make sense. But if I drew them the same size, it just looked a little bit weird to me. I don't know why it did. And his head also isn't that bright. You have to draw kind of like a very flat oval with curved edges. Wait, what are those things called? A trapezium? A very weird trapezium. That's what his head is. Like a very rounded trapezium. And then for his limbs, they're kind of like the ends of finger biscuits, like boudoirs. They look like that for some reason. I don't know why, they just do in my head. I don't know why, they just do. While drawing the arms, I tried to make sure that they were level at each side so they would match up, which was difficult for me, and I don't know why. It should be easy, but it wasn't. And his face is just two big eyes and a big mouth. I drew the teeth in pencil first, but I didn't want to ink it because they also don't ink it normally. So I drew it in pencil first, but then I didn't ink it. But then I erased it when coloring in because when I worked on the snout of Mang, I realized that I didn't like the look of the gray charcoal with my colored pencils, but then I erased it, and the entire time I was coloring in Shooky, I was thinking, why? This looks so weird, this looks so wrong. I had no idea a cartoon could look so weird without teeth. It doesn't look like Shooky without teeth. So the whole time I was coloring in was like, get to the mouth, just color it in so that you can get to the mouth and have those teeth again, because it really doesn't look good without it. But hey, here you have Shooky. It's very easy to color in. Again, just 2 colors, that's it, nothing more. So yeah, here is Shooky. And then Tata. What? Yeah. Tata was very daunting for me because all of these images I drew beforehand on like a scrap piece of paper so that I could try beforehand. And Tata was the most difficult for me because you don't, like, the heart is difficult because there are 2 different kinds of heart that need to match up, but you also can't have your heart to be too long. It needs to be a little bit wide so that his body can match up perfectly with his hands like behind his head, because if you draw the head too tall, so not wide enough, the hands won't disappear correctly behind his head thingy. Like, is his heart the head? Yeah, probably. That was fun to say. For Tata, you just need to try to draw his left part in the beginning very low and like normal heart. It doesn't need to be anything special, just a normal heart. And then the right, you just need to make a little bit taller. And it's very fun to draw the heart, because when I draw hearts, they never match up. And here, they don't need to match up. They need to be not match, and that's awesome. His eyes are just 2 little dots, and his eyebrows, they are flat, but I had no idea that eyebrows could be so expressive, because I drew the mouth first and then the eyes, and it looked wrong. Like, it didn't look good. He looked too surprised. I don't know why. And then I drew his eyebrows and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's Tata now. His body is just trying different things. So I drew the slanted lines first, making sure that the right one was a little bit shorter than the left one. And I tried to draw the arms and legs from that on out. It's okay if you have to like fix it if it's too short or too long. Just try to find the right proportions, and eventually you will get it right. So again, for outlining, I didn't draw the little circles with my black marker because the circles aren't outlined in black. So that was fun to color in, said she sarcastically, because his head was fine. Well, no, his head wasn't fine. For some reason, below his mouth, one line wouldn't color in no matter how much I pressed. I don't know why it did that, but it just wouldn't color in, which isn't great and not fun. But his dots, I tried to like pick my brightest yellow, which I did, and I think it matched very good. But then you can see it very clearly here that it looks good. But while I was drawing it, I couldn't see it. So I don't know why, if that's with my eyes or something, but I saw nothing of like the yellow. So when I tried to color in the blue, I was so afraid to like mess it up and make green. So I was going very slowly on the blue part. So this is how I drew Shooky, Tata, R.J. and Mang. I hope you liked this video. I had a lot of fun drawing these and I feel more confident now than in my last video. So I really like doing this. I hope you liked watching this. If you have any suggestions on what I should draw next or how I can do better, please leave those in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!